is there really such a thing as pushing through to get things done? Can we motivate ourselves to keep on going? Of course we can. That's the simple answer. I just wish that doing it was a little easier. Now, for me, I'm used to pushing through, so that's the good news. But I do work with a lot of people who are learning to deal with doubt. And lately, I have been working with the people to see how I can help them push through, because I know they have goals. I know they have dreams. I know what the goals and the dreams are. But despite those goals and dreams, I can tell that things are going slower than they would like to. And well, trust that's a bit of a hard thing. So last week I recorded the change challenge. And one of the things that's in the middle of it all is actually this little booklet right here. So I'm using this booklet because it's simply easier. But the idea behind it is the same for everyone. So you open it up, there's a worksheet in there. It's about transforming your mindsets from negative to positive. Why is that important? Well, because you want to work on certain things which you write down in here. You have certain goals and dreams which are in the back on here. So I've got a nice little pouch in the back of this booklet. And I was like, okay, it's nice to explain it, but how about me using it myself? And so that's what I started doing. So I wrote down a few things actually in there which have to do with my own goals. But when I gave training, I did a few things. So one of the things is I had a long meditation. I didn't expect that it was going to be such a long meditation, but someone fell asleep, so I did something right. But I also talked about tools. Now, in here, I am writing down tools, and I asked the people, my clients from the group coaching training, to write down in their booklet the word tools as well. There were a few things I wrote in there. I can, I must, I will. When I was a couple of years ago at the training from Brendon Burchard, and now I probably should have looked it up, but if you Google I can, I must, I will, then you will figure out who said so. And that has stuck with me for years now. I can, I must, I will. He would repeat it over and over and over again. And it made quite an impression on me, because the I can, I must, I will is about pushing through. Now, I also came up with something else, and that's everything I do with grace, ease, and joy. So for years, I've been working a lot with someone called Roy Martina. And I remember that when I was still working for a boss, I actually got to see him for the first time. And he talked about visualization, and I was like, oh my God, that's interesting. And I'm not sure whether I told my mom about him or that my mom came up with books from him. But at some point, I went to his training, and it was kind of cool to see that my mom had certain books from the guy. Now, during the training, he would teach us a lot when it came to hypnotherapy. And one of the things that he would talk about extensively was about the future version of yourself, but also using role models of other people. You would talk about downloading data. But the mere fact that we are studying someone and that we are like, okay, so what's that person doing? What inspires me when I watch him or her? What's the result? It sounds like, I don't know. I want to say it doesn't sound like much, but actually it sounds like a lot. But you do it one step at a time. And that's what I always come back to. It's one step at a time. And you look at what is it in this person that attracts you to that person. So what would you be able to do as well? What would you like to be able to do as well? Now, when I talk about this booklet and I talk about the beliefs, one of the things that I tell people is you don't want to just leave it in the future. You want to take it as if it's happening right now, because you want to train your brain as if you're already doing it. And yes, I do use the phrase fake it until you make it. But here's the thing. We've trained ourselves time and time and time and time again to actually make us into something we are not, to tell us negative stuff about ourselves. And it's time to stop using the words from other people and start using our own words. Does that mean that we need to repeat it over and over and over again and do so with intention? Yes, it absolutely does mean specifically that. Because I'm not going to say it's easy, but I do know that if you've said something like thousands, millions of times over and over again to yourself, first you heard it and then you started repeating it, then there needs to be something on the other side as well. And that's about how successful you are and how good you are in things. Now, the funny thing is that when you start embracing those words, certain things start happening. I'm not necessarily talking about things around you, but I am talking about things inside you, and as a result, opportunities show up. At the beginning of May, I had a meeting with other people, and we talked about a number of things that people wanted to do. And one of the people I spoke to, she said, I want to improve the communication. I don't have many people, so I cannot afford someone for HR and for communication, but I want to improve communication. Yet, it took me over a month to actually reach out to her. And so she stuck with me all the time. And the one thing that she did when I talked to her a month ago was she acknowledged for me. So basically, I acknowledged it's myself that I want to get that message across when it comes to communication, that people see the value in other people. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, I need to push through. If I want to do this in September, I want to organize that Chicago trip, then it would be nice that I do have enough people. Now, at this moment, I don't know how I'm going to get all those people, but I do know that this person is precisely who I need in order to make a far more concrete plan. Now, here's the funny thing. We finally reached out to one another. I said, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. So a couple of days we said, okay, let's meet up, which we did today. And to my surprise, actually, the communication was actually quite good. What surprised me was I went in some sort of business mode. I cannot explain here what I mean precisely, but when I used to work as a contract manager or service level manager, and I would have these meetings with people, I would get in some sort of mode, as in I would listen to people, I would write things down, and then there would be a report, and it was like, okay, this is what we talked about. As a therapist, but also as a coach, I write down a lot of things too. And but the difference is in the notes that I'm literally made. So I sent a PDF afterwards, and it felt like we had talked about so many things, and it felt good to be in that position again. But now in a position where I can think along, I can support, we can figure out like, hey, how are certain things done? And I realized that I'm actually coaching again in this situation. It's just from a different point of view. And when we talk about pushing through, well, one of the things that I said is I want to improve communication for small business owners, because the small business owners are specifically the ones you, well, let's put it this way. When I was still in IT, there were a lot of managers. And what would happen is, so if someone was really good at something, then they would promote him or her team leader. And then, of course, it went up from there. But that didn't mean that the person had people skills or was trained for it. It just meant that the person had a lot of knowledge. Now, the good news is, when I was talking to this lady today, I know she knows what she's talking about. And it's up to me to have her consider some other things, which is precisely why I'm a coach. I'm a coach not to come up with all the answers, but I am a coach as in to wake you up a little bit and see, hey, where can we go? Can we go left? Can we go right? Maybe upside down, and then see what comes out. So it's about looking at things from a different angle, from a different perspective, and seeing what can happen when you approach things differently. But again, I was pleasantly surprised when I realized, oh, that is someone who thinks about what she wants and what she can do. But yes, in order to move forward, it's good if we can support one another. So having this talk with her, it suddenly brought me closer to the future. So one of the things I actually said to my coachees, the clients from my group coaching training was, and I said that to my coach as well, I said, I can literally see it. I can see the people as if they are, as if I'm looking through a door, and there they are, and kind of phonetically, they are talking to one another, all hyped up, energized, and seeing how they can support one another. There's this amazing unity going on, but also not being afraid to call one another out. And I guess that's the good thing, because if you want to push on, you want to push through, then we can tiptoe around one another. But how's that going to help us? And that's the question. So this week for me was related to a lot of things that I wanted to change, which I had said for a while now. And then all of a sudden things started happening, and it was so weird. So for the last couple of hours, I was like, okay, what am I going to share? So normally my Friday Night Live is about the things that went on this week. And all I can say is it felt of sort of like I'm sitting here with a smile. And I want to get that smile across because it feels so at ease. And I was like, but why do I feel like so at ease? Now, one of the things that absolutely changed is, well, for one, there's the weather. The weather has improved. It's nicer. It's less cold. I can tell immediately when it is. And at the end of April or the beginning of April, I don't know when, I I had the possibility to get a new Pokemon Go route out there. So I came up with a route that I actually walk every day. And I was like, well, if that gets accepted, then awesome. I never saw it accepted. And then recently I found out that it actually was accepted at the end of April. I just didn't know. And for me, that's such a huge motivation to start doing stuff. So lately, I've been doing a lot more walking and a lot more cycling than I've done in ages. And actually, it started last Saturday when unexpectedly I reached out to a friend and I said, well, do you have time? I would like to go to the beach. I need to pick something up. And I thought you might want to go with me. And she said, yeah. So it was a bit of a rush job that was a little bit weird. But apart from that, first of all, it was astonishing to be in that shop. So I picked up a CD from Eric Carr. He is also one of my role models. Unfortunately, he isn't alive anymore. And he used to be this drummer. And well, even now when I play drums, he's sort of like there. And I told them that I used to dream about being in shops looking for stuff from him. And now Bruce Kulick, he used to be the guitar player in Kiss when Eric Carr was still alive. He has made it his mission to get the stuff from Eric Carr published. And I'm so very grateful that he does. It's so amazing. Well, we went there to pick it up and we looked at the store and it was, at some point I was looking and there was this big poster from Kiss. And she said, yeah, I went there and we talked to one another. And so there was a very intimate setting, not many people. But apparently they were doing a tour in 1995, 1996. There's not too many people, but it was very special. And well, having been backstage at Kiss, well, what do you call backstage? Normally, what I consider backstage is that you actually get to talk to the people, not just for a picture, but you get to hang out, all that stuff. In this case, it was we got a picture and then we could fit the booths and we got to see how, a little bit about the stage from the other side. So that was kind of cool. And well, hearing her talk about it was like, yeah, I know that feeling, and it was so immensely cool. But getting back to being at, actually, it was at the harbor. We had a walk there. It was a good walk. We ended up at another place, and there was this guy, and he said, "Call me Disney." So nice guy. We had a lot of fun. And then he said, "Oh, are you coming back tomorrow?" I said, "No, if I come back, it's going to be next week." which is going to be tomorrow. Why? Because then that record store where which I visited, apparently they have a special day tomorrow, and I'm kind of curious as in what it looks like. Well, you won't be there, Disney, but still, Disney did make a little bit of an impact on me just because he had such a big smile, and I like it when people are, positive, smiling, and upbeat, I would say. Now, going back to the tools, I know I went a little bit away from what I was talking about. So one of the things I decided to talk about again is I do things with grace, ease, and joy. And that comes from Roy. And it was kind of funny because he got married to someone. Her name is Joy. Her daughter's name is Grace. And then he said, well, they used to call me Ease, Mr. Ease. So, but the mere fact that it's described with grace, ease, and joy, I think that's a very important one, because we don't want to feel that the future is so hard. So when I talked about pushing through at the start of this, one of the things that I was said, well, pushing through is relatively normal for me, but for others it isn't. And there are a lot of doubts. So what if it wouldn't be that hard? And hence, what if it would be, what it would be like when it would be with grace, ease, and joy? And it's sort of like I experienced that feeling this week. And that's why I was like, what am I going to get across? Because I feel something, I want to share about it, but I'm not sure if I can put it into words. But I'm trying here, so bear with me when you are like, okay. Now, one of the other things that I introduced, well, I actually reintroduced it again because I'd done it before, but during this meditation, I did it a number of times, was the breathe in, release, breathe in, release. Now, I didn't come up with that release meditation technique. That's Brendon Burchard, but he teaches us these things. So I'm like, yes, that's a good way to, when things are difficult, to calm down again. And I think it made a lot of difference in the whole meditation, because one of the things that I talked about is there are people, and when they are in a meditation, they can see and experience everything. Just like I can, and I can do it with open eyes. I don't have to be in a meditational setting. That I can literally see those people being enthusiastic and really going at it, as in really enthusiastic, talking to one another, trying to improve certain things for one another, really that unity. And I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. I can literally hear them, I can see them, I can experience that vibe. And I also know there are people who cannot do those things. And I believe that part of it has to do with doubts on our end. If you doubt too much, if you question things too much, then you cannot access that unconscious part, that subconscious part. So the conscious part, the chatterbox, just keeps on chatting all the way, as in, it's not going to happen, you won't succeed. And then, of course, there's no way for you to relax. So instead, I talked through the meditation and I gave people a number of options, which is actually quite common when we talk about meditation, and specifically about hypnotherapy, because you use the basics of hypnotherapy in meditation. What you do is you suggest a number of things, and people can either pick up on it or not. So the people who cannot pick up on it, you need to offer them something too. So if you have trouble using your senses and feeling stuff, then it's important that they know it's okay if they do not experience anything. And that's where the breathing and relaxation technique comes in, because when you do the breathe in and then release, then all the worries and all the things going on in the chatterbox, they get the chance to opt out and to actually go there. Just go there. And well, apparently people seem to like my voice. I'm contemplating actually putting music behind it. But it's kind of nice to know that people already react to my voice. So I've heard multiple times that I've got a good voice for meditation. Well, I'll share a little secret with you. When I have been drumming, there's not much coming out of it of me. There's more like a squeaking sound, and that's about it. Probably because I was out of breath all the time. But writing down the tools in my own booklet, it made it more real. I was like, yeah, I can talk about it. But I was like, and I literally said it to the people, I want to see your booklet. I want to see you writing down stuff. Now, I added something to it as well, which I didn't discuss with them. So remember those sheets I have here? So those sheets are related to goals and dreams. They talk about milestones, things that need to be done. So I also said visualizing is one thing, but visualizing without actually doing something, that's not going to work. We also need to take action. That's one of the things that it always comes down to. So I wrote a blog post about it. If you haven't seen it, just go to ladylexi.com/blog. And the latest one, depending on when you look at it, that's the one which has to do with the meditation, the visualization, the affirmation, but then combined with actually taking action. Now, this is normally red on top, but my printer was out of color. And it's the 1-page productivity sheet from Brendan. And I've started using it again. The good thing is I can print it as much as I want to. And it talks about the project to focus on. So when I talk about change and about what you want to achieve, we can basically talk about projects. So one of my projects, of course, is the Chicago trip, but another one that I'm still working on is the change challenge. So all of a sudden people were like, oh, I'm going to talk to others about the change challenge. And I was like, well, you haven't registered yet. No, but that's what I'm going to do. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And so those are already 2 things that are out there. And then there is something else that I want to do as well, which is related to marketing. So that's also a project on there. There's more that I want changed and what I've been working on. And again, it's like this week, as if things were easier to do, as if it was like, oh yeah, let's go do it. It just seemed to make more sense. And well, each project here has some big things, as in what needs to be done to move it forward. So I talked to my coachees about the milestones. I said, okay, so what is it that you need to have achieved? And it's not so much as in when. So on day 30, I must have done. No, I want you to actually be aware of what that outcome looks like. And of course, we wanted to have it done at a certain date. But I want them to be able to sort of grasp that outcome. I think that's way more important. If you are focused and you believe you can do it, that's also, again, why I have that worksheet from negative to positive, then you are way more likely to start working on it compared to, oh, there's a deadline and you need to do some stuff. Now, there's more on this sheet, including people and priorities. But yes, it feels good to have a complete booklet. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it would be nice if somehow I can get all my coachees and also other potential clients a booklet that they can order, where the worksheet is in there and where the tools are in there. So there's already a few things in there which help them support themselves. Now, here's the thing when it comes to tools. There are certain things I can say, but there are also very specific things which apply to the other people. So they need to write it down themselves, what those tools are for them. I cannot come up with everything because everyone has their own life. And then we get back to, as a coach, we can challenge people to look at things from a different point of view, but we cannot tell them what to do. And when it comes to motivation, the only way to motivate people is to make them aware of why it is important to them. Now, I'm not the person to do a lot of new things, but this week I actually started doing something else. I set up a Patreon page. Now, a lot of my musical friends, they have stuff in Patreon, and I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work for me. But they did want some things in there. First of all, a little video about myself, which I actually posted on YouTube as well. And, well, of course, the connections with Facebook and with Instagram and with YouTube. And the moment that I was getting it out there, it felt like, hey, see, I can do this so much more easily because I'm getting stuff out there on the various platforms already. And that just by itself already felt really good. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm making progress, pushing through, right? Because that's what we're talking about. And doing so, I also discovered something else. So apparently there is a Lady Lexi on there. And I know that, a lot of Lady Lexis out there who actually use it as a pseudonym and not in real life. So I'm known as Lady Lexi also in real life. And, well, this girl is a German girl, and apparently she wants to make the wishes come through from certain people. And I was like, oh no, what if people find that site? And I was like, well, it's German. But I did something. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm actually not sure if I did something which I'm not supposed to be doing. But I left a comment on underneath one of her posts asking her if it's possible if she would maybe give up the patreon.com/ladylexi and consider another name, since I'm pretty sure it's not her name. Actually, if people need to spell my name, the only names with Lexi ending at a Y are the dogs' names. But when it comes to people, there are hardly any Lexis out there, especially with a Y. So it's, yeah, I know they do it because they don't want to be known in real life because of what they do. Well, I, of course, want my brand out there. Brand is Lady Lexi. So I was like, well, I'm just going to ask it. And you never know. Because lately, so many things have surprised me. Like, for instance, when I talked about the codes, I finally got the codes now. There are some things that I do need to check. But I'm so close to getting things done again. And everything that came with it, knowing the people from this professional organization, the different vibe that surrounded it, it's such a good feeling. And that's again why I said it's like this week things are so much easier. Now, just to talk about the more physical stuff related to pushing through, I don't know if you noticed, but I had to learn to walk again, stand on 2 feet. It required 2 surgeries. And this week, well, I actually noticed the last couple of weeks already, I noticed that when I'm walking outside, that my upper leg doesn't hurt that much anymore. So I've noticed that when I've played drums, it actually acts up the next day and maybe the day after. But the sharp pain is gone. And I'm like, wow, there's progress. Having walked with that pain in my leg for a year and a half, it's kind of weird that the body actually can be fixed. It can be healed. And I'm like, wow, this is such a blessing. I cannot tell you. So today I actually had a different challenge, and that's a challenge I've had all my life. I just wasn't aware of it until the last couple of months. So I've got multiple physical therapists, and one of them does things in what he calls a 3D technique for the back. So one has taught me to sort of do the salsa when walking. So it's like doing eights all the time. So basically, dancing with the hips. Well, and he actually does the 3D technique. And then I also do other exercises which help me to rotate this more. So because I'm so flexible, what happens as a defense mechanism is that the body actually starts to block certain movements. And well, then they need to put things in the right direction again, as in make sure that I can actually use certain joints the way they are supposed to work, and not like what you are seeing right now, that there is a tendon in the way, which actually hurts quite a bit today. But, getting back to it, I realized that I'm now more aware of my back, my lower back, and having to literally think, okay, relax, do the eight, do the salsa when walking, because I know I have the tendency to look it. Lots of things have happened, and that's one of the reasons that I do. And whenever I look at, that's when trouble happens. So one can wonder what came first, but we don't want that tension in the body. And since I am more aware now that I'm starting to tighten everything, so they basically call it the center, the core, and it's good to actually use your abdominal muscles. But it's not the goal that actually everything in my back also. What's more like a cramping which is going on. So today I packed a little bit more in my backpack than I was supposed to carry around, and I knew it when I went to the supermarket. So remember that I talked about this new route from Pokemon Go that I set up? Well, it goes straight to the supermarket. And I needed to pick up something at the pharmacy, which is across the supermarkets. And I was like, okay. But it got heavy. It got really heavy. And because those backpacks from the supermarket are not actually real backpacks, they are like foldable bags, but they don't have anything underneath the straps, which makes it like a little bit cushy, a little bit soft. So it sort of tears in the flesh, which is not nice. So I'll probably have some red and purple stripes, which I usually have when I carry something. And it actually cut the blood flow to my arm. I could tell because certain fingers were getting numb, and I was like, oh, that's not good. So whenever I could, I rearranged it again so it wouldn't cut the blood flow. And I realized when I got back that I had been carrying that backpack and my leg had not been acting up. I had to be really careful with my back, but my leg hadn't acted up. So I did need to lie down just to relax everything again. And I felt it again after having played drums and having been cycling between my house and here, that I was like, oh yeah, I do need to relax it again a little bit. But I actually told one of the physical therapists that I am now capable of also moving around when I'm on my back, not on my back, on my bike. So when I feel the tension creeping in, then I'm like, okay, let's move it around a little bit. So, things get better. And this week, like I said, I've been doing a lot of cycling. It's not always easy because my heart rate goes up pretty quickly, but it is nice. It's one of those things that I really love to do because it gives me a sense of freedom. And when you're always in the car and then you're on your bike, you're actually higher up. So it's a different view, and that's kind of nice. So talking about pushing through, the whole process physically for me has been one huge struggle. And I can, when I walk with other people, I usually have to tell them, slow down, please. It was actually kind of nice to be with that friend last Saturday. She didn't have to ask me to slow down, and I didn't have to ask her to slow down because we were sort of in the same situation. But seeing that I could actually go certain places at that moment, that was actually kind of nice. And it feels like, yeah, things are going the way they are supposed to be going. I'm more aware of certain things that need changing, which do not entirely work for me. And I'm looking at how can I do that? But the vibe, the enthusiasm, the feeling good, I guess the thought or the belief I can do it, that's what's changed. And it's like, because I've been teaching so many things to people, and I've been talking about so many things to people about this is how I visualize it, this is how I want it to be. And all of a sudden it's like I'm starting to get there at a point that I'm like, oh, but this is actually kind of cool that this is happening. And it's like there's this shift in time. Now, I am aware that it didn't just get there on its own. I have been working for it. And for me, it doesn't feel good to finish the day without having done anything concrete. The good news is that we've got Instagram nowadays, so I post something every day on Instagram. And well, that always feels like I've done something, but now I'm coming to the point that it has to go beyond just Instagram. So I really want to get a message out there, but I also want to do a little more. So talking today to the other lady, she's with me in a group called Ultra, which is run by, yes, of course, Brendon Burchard. It was like, hey, it felt like the both of us were supporting one another. So I helped her with the questions she had. And basically, because I got to brainstorm with her, it gave me an even better perception of what it is I want to do when I organized the Chicago trip. And one of the things is I want to get a little bit more specification out there so people can actually read about it. And I know I don't have to be very concrete, but it's nice when people have sort of like a feeling to it. Now, I'm not sure how things are going to work out, but I do know that just working on it is something that I am doing with joy and with enthusiasm, hence with grace, ease, and joy. And that was one of the things that I actually pointed out to the people when I was giving this workshop. So on Monday, I'd written the blog post, and on Tuesday, I was like, okay, now we're going to just do it. So I said, we've talked about this booklet for a while now. Now I want to see it, and now I want you to see you do it. You should be aware by now of what makes you, what helps you support. And then we get back to the tools. So I gave them a few tools as well. But I wanted them to come up with their own tools. And one of the things that I wrote down in the blog post and which I said to them is, you have to enjoy the process. And well, they always say it's about the journey, not about the destination or where you end up. But actually having fun and being proud of yourself for taking action, I think that's very important too. And we don't do that enough. We don't pat ourselves on the back. We don't, tap on our shoulders like, hey, well done, enough. It's more like, I need to do this. I need to do that. I haven't done this and that. So instead of being proud of what you do have accomplished, it's like we're beating ourselves down for what we haven't done, and that's not going to work. And that feeling of enjoying stuff, it's like it's sort of taken me over at the moment. And that's why I'm not sure how this Friday Night Live is going to work out. I know that the common theme is about pushing through, but I also wanted to get some of that positivity across, because it's like there's a weight off my shoulders. And again, I'm not sure why that is. I do know that I've got a way better understanding of myself lately. Part of it is because of my own clients, and there's sort of like a mirror effect. And when I see certain things, then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sort of like that too. Another thing is, I have been able to do more every day this week. So normally after 4 hours of being awake, it's like my brain shuts down, and I actually have been able to continue quite a bit longer. And I'm like, what has happened? I said to my coach, I want more energy. I need more energy. I need to get things changed. But experiencing it, it's like, is this because it's summer? Is it because I've been talking about it? Is it because I've made that solution? It could also still be the effect of the supplements, but we do know that when it's a little bit warmer, that I do tend to feel better. And the shift, it's way bigger than I expected. And that's, I've been talking about it a lot with my coach. I talk to her weekly. And of course, then there's Brendan talking about a lot of stuff. But to actually, so I guess well, my coach always says we send a message to the universe. This is what we want. And we want to be specific. We don't want to go in every direction possible, which you have when you doubt yourself. But if instead you are very precise in what it is you want, and well, one of the things is I want to have more energy during the day. I don't want to be the one who, after 4 hours, needs to lie down again. So I can tell when I've had physical therapy or I've done some other things. At some point, this body says, okay, now take a break. You need to recharge. And yet, I can do more. Actually, I've been using my watch a lot more. So I've got this Garmin watch here. And it's, well, depending on what I'm doing. So when I'm walking and I don't stop, then it actually kicks in itself. When it comes to riding the bike, it doesn't record everything, but on the other hand, it does actually monitor that I'm moving. So today there was the goal and it said 450 minutes. And I was like, oh, because my goal is 150 minutes a week. And well, I've tripled that this week. That has been a long time ago that I actually made it, let alone this long. So yes, I've started using it more. Now the rain is less. And one of the first things that I actually do in the morning or in the afternoon, because I work at night because of the time difference. So I usually sleep in the morning till beginning of the afternoon. That's when I wake up. So one of the things that I check is, okay, what's the temperature outside? And then what are they saying when it comes to rain? Getting on the bike, it's nice, but I don't like it when it rains. And, move on from there. And again, it's even with the Pokemon Go, I was invited in a group. Well, actually, a group was built around me. And then I got kicked out of that same group, not by the one who invited me and built a group, but because of his friends. And I got invited to another group, and that's such a nice group, so relaxed. And experiencing that vibe, sweet people, there for one another, supporting. That's such a good feeling that I'm like, hey, I'm not all by myself. There are people and we are there for one another. And one of the things when I recorded the video was I was talking about the whole thing when it comes to neurodiversity, because I'm aware that we form a community of our own, because we tend to think a little bit different. We tend to act a little bit different, but we understand one another amazingly well. It's kind of funny is not a good word. Weird is not a good word. But neurotypical people, they see the world as, well, this is what happens. And for them to be dealing with people who are neurodivergent, it's like, why is it so hard? Don't you understand that it's like this? But because they are very creative, neurodivergents, and they think about everything from every angle. No, not everything is makes sense for us as neurodivergent. So we typically ask more questions, or when we are shut down, often enough, we don't say anything at all. And then we just go our own way. And well, of course, that doesn't work out very well either. And that's feeling like, hey, there's a big group of us. Also reading about it and then getting to understand certain things, it feels really good. It's like a couple of months ago, I talked to my coach about wanting to get better understanding about certain things. And all of a sudden, I actually literally see it. I was watching Grey's Anatomy, and all of a sudden there was this guy, ADHD, wasn't diagnosed, but someone else said, you've got ADHD. And well, in the next sentence, sort of, he talked about being neurodivergent. And I was like, half a year ago, I probably never had heard about neurodivergence, so I wouldn't have picked up on it. And now all of a sudden it's there. And well, they mentioned the list for ADHD, and I was like, yeah, I know this, I know that. And fortunately we can change certain things, but I'm not going to say it's always easy. But like I said, we do it with grace, ease, and joy. And having said I can, I must, I will, that shows the importance of getting things done. Now, if you need a little support when it comes to pushing through, because you really have no clue where you're at, then consider signing up for the Change Challenge. So that's ladylexi.com/sign up for change. But you can also reach out to me and ask for some support. And well, maybe that's you coming to the group coaching, or maybe you want some one-on-one coaching. So plenty of options. But there's always a lot of stuff on my blog post and on YouTube. So don't forget to check it out. And if you let me know what it is you could use some support with, then I can come up with a video or maybe a handout to actually support you in getting there. Well, let me know what it is you need to do or what you actually experience when it comes to change related to pushing through. And I'll see you again soon.